Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Joseph Parker is in the final stages of his training camp to prepare for Anthony Joshua on March 31st in Wales. So there's a bit to cover off in this video, and you can expect actually in the next couple of weeks there's going to be a screed of videos coming for this massive unification clash. So I've been trying to keep my powder dry until now, not wanting to overdo it, but I will be upping the ante in the next couple of weeks, pumping out quite a bit of coverage. But for this one, quite a bit to cover in this video, including Graham Norton's comments have been spurring Joseph Parker on. And if you're not sure what that's about, more on that soon. Also cover off his training, a little bit of news from sparring. The weight thing, Parker is looking very different now. Also, the buzz in his home country of New Zealand for this unification, and I'll also touch on the betting odds as well. So there hasn't been a lot of movement, and there's some good value to have if you're a gambler. So buckle in. Let's go. So starting with the now infamous King of Pies jibe from British talk show host Graham Norton. So here was what was said in January.
That looks like it's going to be quite an easy fight.
It is, you can't underestimate.
King of Pies.
What's his nickname?
No,
I can't underestimate anyone.
He must be a world-class athlete, but he doesn't look like one, does he?
All units 10-3. It now appears as though shots are being fired.
At the time, Parker laughed it off with this tweet, saying he actually does love his pies. But clearly he's been using that taunt from Graham Norton, and Anthony Joshua was laughing at it, as motivation. Because his promoter Duco Events has issued a media release this week specifically built around that January King of Pies comment. They really have. So it reads, WBO heavyweight boxing champion Joseph Parker is determined to make chat show host Graham Norton eat his words for his King of Pies taunt at the end of the month. It appears Norton's off-the-cuff comments to Joshua on his chat show in January has provided motivation for the 26-year-old Kiwi fighter. The release it then cuts to some quotes from Parker. So Parker says, "Camp is going fantastic. I feel I'm in great shape. I'm going to take my shirt off at the weigh-in and honestly see if I've been eating pies or not. I feel like I'm punching sharp, I'm moving well, making a lot of angles, movements, fitness is good, so everything is on track." The media release, it then goes on to note that Parker is amused at Eddie Hearn talking up a potential Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder fight for later in the year, with Parker stating, "I think my plans for the year are I fight Joshua and I beat him, and then a rematch, so that's my plans for the year." Also noted is Parker's hand speed, with it saying that he has the fastest hands in the heavyweight division, and that Parker has almost double the ring experience over Joshua, having been in the ring for 123 rounds. Okay, so I'll make a couple of quick comments on all of that, then I'll move on. So the King of Pies comment, it has obviously been a bit of a sore point, as many of us would have expected it to be. Let's face it, no top athlete wants to be labelled as an out of shape and potentially easy beat to a TV audience of millions. It would have been somewhat humiliating, I imagine. And Parker, he already had a well-stated goal before that King of Pies comment of coming in 7 to 8 pounds lighter than his last fight when he weighed 246 pounds. So I guess, I mean, you could look at it this way. If the Norton comment has managed to help drive him through a tough camp, provide that little bit of an extra spur to push through hard times and when he's maybe feeling a bit low, well, perhaps it hasn't been such a bad thing. And the fact they've issued a press release specifically referencing it a couple of weeks out from the fight, well, that in itself is interesting. Clearly it has been something that has been weighing on their minds, especially Parker. Joseph Parker, he's also spoken about how training camp is going on social media. So here's a brief clip.
We love training in Vegas where it's nice and warm. It gets you sweaty fast, it gets you warmed up nice and quick. Having that family environment and vibe is very important to keep you relaxed and calm. When it's time to train, we know what we have to do, we're focused. We know what we have to achieve in training, but when we're at home, it's fun and games, relax, pranks, a lot of laughter, a lot of joy.
We know that Parker, he's been getting sparring from top prospect and Olympic gold medalist Tony Yoka, but actually not much about how that has been going has filtered out. I mean, all we've really had is Kevin Barry saying they've been sparring twice a week. He doesn't want to overdo it because it does take a lot out of the fighters. So, I mean, beyond that, I mean, there's been a few rumours that Malik Scott and a couple of others are potentially in camp, but nothing has been confirmed. But we do know Yoka is in camp. And actually, he's been in the news for all the wrong reasons, having been given a 12-month suspended sentence for missing 4 doping tests. So apparently Yoka, he had not properly informed drug testers of his whereabouts on some occasions where he had actually not even been in France at the time they came knocking at his door. Certainly not a good look, but for Parker's purposes, I'm not really sure he'll be too worried about that. And there has actually been a lot more things coming out of the Parker camp than in previous training camps, and certainly in the past I've been a little bit critical of Team Parker for essentially vanishing during training camp after fights are announced in initial press conferences, and then they go dark for a couple of months and pretty much deliver nothing to an expectant public through Parker's social media platforms. There's several thousands, and in some cases hundreds of thousands of people who want updates about what's happening, how's it all going. And it has certainly been much better this time around, and I guess it had to be given the magnitude of the event. So there's been quite a few clips sort of just, dribbling out every couple of days, or clips as well from camp. And it's just been keeping things ticking over. And what it also serves to do is it gives us a bit of a yardstick on things like how is Parker tracking with his weight loss, and that's something I want to come back to. But it also gives us a yardstick on, how are his feet, how are his hands, what's the speed looking like, because those sorts of things Kevin Barry wanted to quicken up and make some improvements on in camp, because he wasn't quite happy with where things were at for the last fight when Parker weighed in at 246 pounds. He wanted to sharpen up on a couple of things, lose weight, come in lighter, and potentially look a lot better and sharper in certain areas. And just on the weight, Kevin Barry wants Parker at about 238 pounds come fight night. And statements from Parker and Barry in the media recently in various different interviews and also on a Facebook live chat, it would suggest that actually he's not far away from that. And you may well remember in a recent video I actually did a comparison to the Huey Fury camp at about the same time in the camps with how he was actually looking. And he's clearly looking trimmer now. But what I want to do now is actually have a look at even from the start of this camp. So Parker, he's clearly been dropping beef. He's actually starting to look quite different. So this photo here, it was from the first day of camp, January 18th. And this one here, it's from March 6th. So here's the side-by-side comparison. Parker's face, it's definitely changed. But obviously how much weight he's lost and, just how his physique is looking underneath all those baggy clothes, well, it's anyone's guess, because it's kind of masking the way that he looks. And I think that's probably a deliberate move. Here's a still shot from a clip that recently appeared on social media. I mean, even from that, he looks like he's come in a bit around the midriff in the upper body. So it's going to be really intriguing to see, and this comes back, I guess, to the dramatic reveal that he wants to make, and sort of throw back in Graham Norton's face at the weigh-in. He's clearly in much better shape. But here's the brief clip that still shot is taken from. I'll just quickly talk about the betting odds, because they are about as short as they can come for this unification on March 31st, and that's even in New Zealand. With the New Zealand TAB, it has Joshua at $1.12 and Parker at $5.50. So effectively, you bet on Joshua, you get a return of 12 cents on the dollar, whereas you can see with Parker, there's a lot of value to be had there. And I'm sure that some of the odds, especially in New Zealand, may shorten a little in the final week or so, as some home money does go on him, but I can't imagine it will be by much. But if Parker can score an upset, I think it's fair to say that the bookies are going to take an absolute bath. It's also probably in the final week or so that I'm actually expecting interest to actually really start spiking in New Zealand, where I'm based. And that's obviously where also Joseph Parker is from. I mean, at the moment, there's been a small increase in media coverage. That's sort of in the recent weeks. There's almost a daily thing, but it's certainly not wall-to-wall. It's not dominating the headlines. Far from it, actually. And part of the reason for that, I think, is that the event is in the UK. It's still a little out of sight, a little out of mind. It's not in people's faces yet. Whereas it's a bit of a contrast when Parker fights at home, especially the Ruiz Jr. title fight in 2016. That was at saturation point for media coverage. It was just amazing and crazy at the same time. Even a month out from that event, it was huge. I am expecting the final week or so that the casuals will start to pour in. Everyone will be an expert for a week or two, as often happens. It's just that the process here in New Zealand, at least, I think is starting a little later, because actually the fight is based in the UK. I mean, what's also different this time is there's been very little scrutiny of the pay-per-view cost of $49.95. I mean, such costs in the past have been a real sore point for a lot of fans, because a lot of people didn't see that the cost justified what was being put forward as an entertainment offering. But this time, however, it's fair to say that Parker, he's facing the biggest name that he could have possibly fought in Anthony Joshua. So there's been very few grumbles, and the cost of that pay-per-view has just kind of slid by. Not too much on it, and I can't blame people for that, because I think it is actually, it's probably priced just bang on. What do you make of it all? Joseph Parker, what's he going to look like come fight night? What's he going to look at the weigh-in, maybe I should say? Do you think he's going to prove Graham Norton wrong, turn up, look shredded, in the best shape of his career? What do you make of it all? Drop a comment, let me know, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.